work in a variety of different media forms, in film, TV, and radio
Yep.
as well.
Yeah.
How do they feed into then when you come to writing? Do they?
Well, they do. I mean, it's all storytelling, right? So some stories work better for radio. Some stories look better for TV. Isn't that funny? And then I would say all of them work better in books for a number of different reasons. One, it's cheaper. You don't have to worry about any budgetary constraints. So, yeah. So if you want the helicopter to hit the building, you can do that, right? And then the other thing to write a book is your time plus a room, right? So you really, if you have a burning story to tell, then writing it is the way to do it, because you don't need to hustle up, $3 million to make your movie cheaply. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that really appeals to me. I think, and I also think because of those reasons, the literature, I do consider it literature, but to me, literature is really the last artistic venture alive. It's like film is so expensive that you have to, before you can green light a project, you have to have a commercial. You have to convince people it's a commercial entity. For radio, it's like, other than CBC in Canada and BBC here, maybe NPR in the States, but still, it's still a numbers game. And so even in those venues, you still have to present an economic feasibility strategy before they'll let you make it. Television is obviously a commercial venue, and when you think about books, it's the last thing without ads, right? It's like now that everybody listens to music on iTunes and on your computer, there's now even ads associated with that, right? So the only vehicle that is purely about itself is books. There's 5 main characters. When I started writing the book, it was all about Angie. In fact, the first couple drafts were in first person. It was in Angie's first person. The book now is in third person, and that's only because so she's got 4 brothers and sisters. There's 5 weird kids, and so weird being their surname, and so they became way more interesting than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be Angie's story with some quirky brother and sister story. You know what I mean? Like, really, I went into thinking that they all just started expanding and being interesting and becoming part of the story and like taking away the story from anyway. So yeah, that's why it's longer, is because I have more main characters, which is a good thing to know. I kind of learned a lot about storytelling when I was a film director. So I still really write in 3-act structure. When I really broke into understanding how to tell a story, the structure that I was taught was the typical Hollywood 3-act structure. So the first act is define what the character wants. Second act is put obstacles in the way of them getting that. And then the third act is, depending on whether you're making a comedy or tragedy, they either get it or they don't. So that, I mean, I know that sounds sort of pat and cliche and all that sort of stuff, but I feel I love structure. I think people love structure. I think that's why we have stories, so that we can condense understanding and experience into a narrative. So I'm all over that. So, I mean, I don't think that's the only way you can structure a story, but it's the story of the times, right?
Yeah.
If you go back to 1600s, it was a 5-act structure with a climax in the middle and 2.5 acts of falling action, right? Yeah. So the first act of Born Weird is meet the weirds, find out who they are, find out why they're messed up and what they want to do to get fixed. Second act is the road trip, and that is, it's an opportunity to expand on character and desire and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it is a series of obstacles that they have to overcome. And then the third act is them working towards the final goal, which okay. Again, this is one of those things that it feels a little weird talking about in like 2013, right? But and I'm not a Christian, like I'm not a churchgoer, but I was raised in a Christian society, and it's like redemption, forgiveness, compassion. Those are like core values that I really embrace. I think are really good, and I think because they've been really, really hooked in with a lot of organized religion. The Christian church is not really at the top of its game right now. I think it's safe to say. So So yeah, those are just values I really, I truly believe, and I wish I could do more of. So there's a particular scene at the end of the book where all the Angie and all of her siblings have a very time deadline oriented conversation, so it's all very precise. And the line I think you're thinking of is, if you can't forgive someone, it means you think that they're unlovable. Because if you love someone, you will be able to forgive them. So, and I totally believe that. Now, this is the interesting thing about my writing process is that I really don't plan, I really don't map out. I write a first draft either by hand or I use a manual typewriter because it's very hard to go backwards. You can still go faster. So then I get all the plot points and I get the characters and then I spend a couple years making it pretty, right? Like that's my process. So yeah, all those conversations, all those, a lot of the things that happened in this book I did not know. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know anything about the Hotel, right? Like that entire thing was completely something I discovered while I was writing. So yeah, that surprises me. I'm not trying to say that it's like collective unconscious or anything like that. I do think that it's that my characters are some personality quirk or hang up that I have that I'm like forcing into fiction as a way to confront it or to deal with it, that sort of stuff. So yeah, the writing process is, I'm one of those writers that when I finish a book, I'm a different person than when I started it. You know what I mean? There's writers who are really good craftsmen and they will tell you a good story and their wordplay is fantastic and all that sort of stuff. I'm not that. I'm like a storyteller and I hit with an emotional, or at least I tried to hit with an emotional edge instead of an intellectual one. So it is not cool to believe in fated things or in to give meaning to happenstance. You kind of come off as a chump. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you believe in God right now, it's not like the guy with the beard and sandals in the chair. If you believe in a higher being, you're kind of like written off as someone who's not getting it. You know what I mean? Like that's where we are in the culture right now. So on good days, because coincidence, I'm not saying every coincidence has a significant base. I'm not saying that at all. But if you look at your life, there's probably been some things that have happened that it's like it is more work to convince yourself that is simply coincidence than it is to just accept that maybe there's something going on there. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, on a good day, when I'm feeling strong and confident, and I can make that leap and I can accept that. But most days it's like I'm like everybody else. It's like oh, it's a coincidence. Everything casts a shadow. So if it exists, then it's going to have the other side. You can't have a back without a front. You know what I mean? It's like that's why the weirds never say that it's a curse and a blessing, because a curse and a blessing is different than a blursing. Do you know what I mean? Like a blursing is a curse and a blessing wrapped so tightly together that they're the same thing, that they're inexplicable, right? It's not a curse and a blessing. It's a blursing, right? So, and I think that pretty well anything significant has that. I think love is a blursing. It's like if you fall in love with somebody, it's the best thing in your life, and it also it's kryptonite, man. It's like, makes you vulnerable, makes you scared, makes you do crazy ass things, right? The things we do to be loved, there's like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So, yeah, anything powerful, anything of significance, it's gonna have a dangerous component to it.
Do you feel blessed?
Yes, definitely.
What are your blessings in life then?
Well, I mean, the pat answer to that is that writing really is a blursing, right? It's like it's this thing that gives my life focus and it gives my life meaning, and it gives my life. So I mean, it's almost a form of therapy. You know what I mean? Like it makes me grow as a person, but at the same time, it's like it makes me sit in a room by myself for 8 hours a day. It's very emotionally draining. I get really messed up when I'm finishing a book. Like I lose a lot of perspective on, because I'm so it's so emotionally draining in the studio that it's like then when I leave, I'm all sort of like still. It's like I'm having a big emotional experience every day at work. Do you know what I mean? Like so that's definitely a blursing. Some of the things that go on in the book are just, I mean, to me, heartbreaking, right? Like it's like, so yeah, I do think it's a funny book, but well, there you go, right there. There's the other side, right?
That's what,
Yeah. It's like it's like you can't really have comedy without tragedy because they balance each other out. To me, a good story, if it's this sad, will also be this funny, and that's by nature of the whole story.